Mental and physical exhaustion has a major impact on our overall health, and more often than not, this is because of the load that we keep on piling up, and when it hits us, it knocks us down and out. So to chat to us more about some of the things that we can do to lessen stress and to avoid burnout is Mariama Barry Malumo, who is a natural health consultant. Welcome, Mariama. Good to have you back.
Thank you for having me.
Now, overthinking. I think it's a disease of the population. People do it so often. Why is it that we tend to overthink?
I think it's because there's so much happening in our lives. We never get a moment to actually step back and break away from the busyness. And overthinking, there are two parts to overthinking. There's ruminating and then there's worrying.
Right.
So many a time when we ruminate, it's almost like, when the cow chews the cud, and it brings it back up again, choose. So we bring our old experiences back into our minds and we think about it and analyze it. And many a time the analysis is on a negative side. And it brings up emotions of self-hate, self-loathing and so on, which can lead to many ways in which we try to find cope to make ourselves feel better.
Yes.
And then the other one is worry, worrying about the future events. And honestly speaking, if you take a step back, you'll find that when you worry, most of the things you worry about, you honestly have no control over. So that's where I think, and then media doesn't help either, because there's always something to worry about in the media.
Yeah.
So I think that's where that overthinking dis-ease comes from,
That constant ruminating, thinking and worrying can cause a mental fatigue and exhaustion. When do we get to that point, and how do we possibly stop ourselves from getting to that point?
There are many different mechanisms that you can use. First of all, realizing when you are at that point. It was very interesting. A client of mine once told me when he goes to bed at night and his mind keeps going, he literally gets up and he writes down everything, he puts it away, and then he goes back and goes to sleep.
Okay.
Goes out of,
get it out of his head.
Get out of his system.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Are people more prone to mental exhaustion and fatigue these days because of, as you say, media, social media, how busy our lives are and what goes on in the world?
They are, because they never shut down properly. And I also might want to add, maybe through childhood growing up, they never learn how to shut down. And so when they get into the work environment, just go. And eventually it's like the Energizer Bunny. The battery has to be completely dead before we stop and take stock of ourselves and say maybe something is not right. And then we try to find help for that issue.
What are some of the physical sort of signs and symptoms of this fatigue or burnout, if we can call it that at this stage?
We call it stress and anxiety, right? And there's actually a physical manifestation of that stress and anxiety, and that can be chronic pain. Many a time it's pain that when you go to the doctors, they'll scan and say there's nothing wrong with you, but you still feel that pain. And physically what is happening is the nervous system and the hormonal system has been so depleted that the body can no longer function. And so it's expressing itself through pain.
Okay.
And that's the symptoms of burnout, the signs of it, of burnout. Yeah.
So burnout is something that I think is so common, and we've spoken about it with many different guests on the show because there are lots of different avenues or perspectives that link into it. But in terms of, we think, okay, cool, we can work a hard year, go on holiday for a couple of weeks, come back and pick up, we've had a rest, we reset, we feel good, and then quite quickly often we get back to that point of just feeling so tired and jaded from life. Why is it that we are just not getting enough recovery time, or is it because we are not shutting down in that recovery time? What is causing, we spoke about the build-up in the introduction, what is causing that build-up to become so unbearable?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think we're not shutting down completely when we say we're going to shut down, and so we never recover properly. That holiday is not a proper holiday. And I think the holiday is too short. I mean, how many months in the year do we work and then you take a 2-week holiday? So at that given time, many people have a holiday and then need a holiday from the holiday.
Yes, because they've been so busy.
Yeah, because they've been so busy. And especially as parents, you finish your work, but now there's work at home with kids and family and so on. So you actually never really do shut down. And my recommendation would be in those moments is take a holiday in the year. And it doesn't have to be like a week away, or you can even take an hour out of your day and spend that completely cutting yourself from what makes you overwhelmed and makes you think too much.
Right. What is the importance of recognizing that there is a time that you now can't actually do this yourself and you need to deal with somebody to help you through.
When you become overwhelmed, and it's funny enough, you'll start giving yourself keywords. I can't take this anymore. I can't handle this. You'll tell your body will literally tell you that. When you notice those little keywords, then okay, maybe it's time to go to a therapist, because what the therapist can do is give you a bigger picture of the situation. So you realize, okay, maybe it's not as bad as I thought it was. I just needed a bit of rest, and then I can come back and take care of what needs to be taken care of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then in terms of some tips and tricks that you might have, so someone who's facing stress, burnout, other activities or actions that people could take to help themselves to just alleviate some of that stress and anxiety?
If it's not to the point where you're just exhausted or tired, I would recommend things like exercise. That's a nice way to just get the body moving again, because many times the exhaustion is coming from mental overload.
Yes.
Also, incorporating your diet, certain things like adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha will help the body to get the nutrition it needs to balance itself out.
Okay.
And then sometimes if it's worry, stress and anxiety, taking an hour to worry and then letting go of that worry when that hour is up.
I like
That's also
that,
a nice thing to think about, like maybe journaling, or like I mentioned earlier on, if it's the middle of the night, get up, write it down, put it down, and then go back to sleep again.
Okay.
Yeah, those little tips.
Okay, great. Well, Mariama, I think lots of lovely tips there in terms of how to deal with sort of the stresses of life in general. Thank you so much. Great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.